Pause for just a breath and notice what already happened. You didn't scroll. Out of countless moving choices on your screen, your attention locked here, as if something inside you recognized a familiar signal and said, "This is mine." That pause wasn't random. It was resonance. It was the first proof that a hidden shift has already begun in you. Not a theory, not a wish, but an activation. If you're seeing this now, it's because your consciousness is ready to step out of ordinary causality and into the layered, living field that has quietly been shaping your life from the background. You've heard the language before. Manifestation. Observer effect, collapsing the wave. But if you're honest, trying to think your way into a new reality has left you with flashes of hope and stretches of frustration. You've done the visualizations, whispered the affirmations, focused harder, and yet the deeper ache persists. Why does the world sometimes bend for me and sometimes not at all? Why do synchronicities arrive in clusters and then go silent? Why do I feel like I'm living in two realities at once, one flat and predictable, the other shimmering, responsive, impossibly alive? That ache is not failure. It's the call. It's the part of you that knows the mechanism is real, just not where you were taught to look. Here is the truth most people never hear. Before observation, there is selection. Before you try to influence a result, you choose the framework from which you exist. The shift you're sensing isn't about staring at outcomes until they change. It's about embodying a frequency where those outcomes are already native. In that state, you're not pushing reality from the outside, you're originating it from within. Think of it like this. A radio doesn't force a station to play its song. It tunes to the band where the song is already broadcasting. Your life reorganizes the instant your being tunes fully to the station of your highest timeline. If you felt strange lately, time stretching and snapping like elastic, dreams turning vivid and instructional, answers arriving whole before you can form the question, you're not too sensitive, you're coherent. You're noticing the field respond to you because your nervous system has begun carrying more signal and less noise. The buzzing in your palms when you're close to a big decision, the warmth behind your sternum when something is right, the way rooms change when you enter, lighter, clearer, more possible. These are not quirks, they're diagnostics. They tell you you're already operating beyond the flat map of linear cause and effect, and into the landscape where consciousness and reality are not separate categories, but one continuous fabric. And yes, I know the other side of this story, the pressure. The season that looked like collapse, relationships shedding, work unraveling, routines refusing to comfort you the way they once did. It felt like too much. It felt like you were losing ground. But under the surface, something precise was happening. The old scaffolding that could not carry your expanded signal was dissolving, not because you were being punished, but because you were being prepared. A caterpillar does not become a butterfly by staying intact. It liquefies. You weren't breaking. You were being remade to hold more light, more information, more choice. So here is what we will do together now. We will stop treating reality like a wall you must push and start treating it like a field you can inhabit. We will move from mental certainty, I'm trying to believe, to embodied certainty. I am the frequency that makes this inevitable. We will name the subtle indicators of quantum alignment already alive in you and show you how to stabilize them so they become your new normal. We will take the mystery you've glimpsed in flashes and make it practical, breathable, livable. Before we go any further, because continuity matters when you're tuning a signal, I'm asking you to do one simple thing that keeps this channel of transmission open between us. Tap subscribe now. Not as a gimmick, not as a vanity metric, but as a clean, conscious commitment to keep receiving this frequency and to let the next activations find you at the exact moment you're ready. Feel into this with me. As these words move through you, notice what rises, your breath deepening, a soft hum in your hands, a calm clarity cutting through the mental fog. That's your system synchronizing. That's coherence knitting together what you think, what you feel, and what you are. When that alignment locks, effort gives way to expression. Synchronicity stops being an exception and becomes the climate you live in. You are not late. You are not behind. You are precisely on time for the life that fits you. The proof is how you arrived, by resonance, not by accident. So stay, keep breathing, keep noticing. In the next movement of this journey, we'll lift the veil on the mechanism itself, how selection precedes observation, how identity chooses timeline, and how you stabilize the you, who no longer chases outcomes because you are the field they bloom from. Most people try to bend reality by staring at it harder. More visualization, tighter focus, louder affirmations, yet the result is a familiar cycle, a brief spike of hope followed by the quiet return of what already was.
The problem is not sincerity.
It's sequence. The universe is not waiting to be bullied by your attention. Long before you look at anything, something far more decisive has already occurred within you. You have selected the framework of reality you will inhabit. Observation trims the branches. Selection plants the forest. When selection shifts, outcomes no longer need persuasion because they grow from the soil of who you are being. Think of two lenses held before the same scene. Through one, life appears heavy, delayed, transactional, every gain paid for in friction. Through the other, events click into place with an elegance that feels almost orchestral. Timing aligns, help arrives, the next step appears on cue. The street is the same, the people are the same, the calendar is the same. What changed is the lens, and the lens is your state of being. This is why forcing thoughts rarely works. A frightened identity chanting brave words still broadcasts fear. The field responds to your signature, not your slogans. Selection happens beneath language, in the quiet stratum where your nervous system, emotions, and implicit beliefs agree on a single vibration. When that agreement is incoherent, mind wants one thing, body fears it, identity disqualifies it, you can stare at a possibility all day and it will flicker, but never land. When that agreement is coherent, mind, body, identity, and soul humming the same note, the field organizes around you without drama. You stop getting results and start expressing them, the way a tuning fork doesn't fetch its tone. It is its tone, and instruments around it begin to sing. This is why the most dramatic upgrades often arrive in seasons that look like endings. You try to hold your old life together and it refuses to be held. Plans crumble, friend groups thin, habits that once soothed now feel like static. It isn't sabotage, it's calibration. Your system cannot carry a higher signal while clinging to the scaffolding built for a lower one. The caterpillar isn't punished in the cocoon. It dissolves because flight requires different architecture. Likewise, selection rewrites your architecture. It swaps the identity that strives for the identity that is. The outer shifts last precisely as long as it takes your inner circuitry to stabilize. You can feel selection as sensation before you can name it as concept. It lands as a warmth behind the heart, as breath that deepens without effort, as a steadying of attention that is neither glare nor daze, but lucid presence. It arrives as a soft certainty that does not negotiate with circumstance. From there, thought becomes an instrument, not a battleground. You don't think positive to overpower doubt. You think clearly because doubt has already dissolved at the level where your being chose a different world to live from. If this sounds abstract, notice how you already do it in pockets of your life. Remember a moment when you simply knew a relationship was complete or a move was right. You didn't conjure 100 affirmations. You shifted. Within days, the external rearranged to match. Conversations opened, leases appeared, flights were found, support materialized. That was selection preceding observation. The mind later told a plausible story about choices and steps, but the hinge was deeper. You embodied a timeline where the decision was already true, and then you walked it out. Here is the trap that keeps many oscillating, mistaking intensity for coherence. Muscling your way through change with white-knuckle focus can produce short bursts of novelty, but the field reads strain as this is not native, and your life snaps back like elastic. Coherence feels different. It is strong without effort, directional without tension. You can still act boldly. Coherence is not passivity, but action issues from alignment, not from trying to outrun your own frequency. When you touch that state, even simple tasks carry power. A phone call lands at the perfect moment. An email opens a door you didn't know existed. Your presence steadies a room that would have spun yesterday. So how do you move from the old way, pushing observations, to the hidden mechanism, making selections? You begin by letting your system taste coherence on purpose. Not by reciting better sentences, but by giving your body a felt reference for the frequency you intend to live from. Close your eyes for a breath and recall one lived instance of unmistakable rightness where the yes was cellular. Don't narrate it. Re-inhabit it. Notice how your chest, jaw, and belly settle. Notice how time widens. Now, without grabbing for outcomes, let this physiology be the selector. From that state, identify one micro-move that naturally expresses who you already are there. Send the message, clear the shelf, start the page, step outside. Small is powerful when it is true. Do this repeatedly and you're no longer visiting coherence. You're normalizing it. The field does the heavy lifting. Selection is not blank denial of what is. It is the deeper is, choosing what will constellate around it. You can tell you've selected a higher timeline not because life becomes frictionless, but because friction stops defining you. Challenge is present, and instead of shrinking, you feel a widening intelligence rise to meet them. Old triggers still knock, and instead of spiraling, you notice, breathe, and remain oriented. This steadiness is not numbness. It's authority. It is the quiet confidence of a frequency that knows it is home. And here is the most liberating part. Selection is continuous. You are not waiting for a grand cosmic permission slip. Each breath is a vote. In a hard conversation, you can select honesty over performance. In a moment of doubt, you can select curiosity over catastrophe. In a crowded room, you can select presence over posture. Each tiny fidelity trains the field to trust you with larger harmonies. Each time you refuse to abandon yourself, reality learns to stop abandoning you. When you grasp this, the observer effect becomes a footnote. You no longer hover at the glass hoping your stare will rearrange the particles. You step through the glass. You become the temperature that makes certain patterns inevitable. You become the room in which synchronicity is the climate, not the weather. And the astonishing ordinariness of it, the way the sacred arrives dressed as Tuesday, becomes your favorite proof that you finally shifted from thinking about magic to living from it. If selection precedes observation, then your first unmistakable proof of a higher selection is not a sudden windfall. It's an unraveling. The friendships that used to feel like oxygen now feel like static. The job you could do on autopilot begins to drain you in ways coffee can't disguise. Routines that once soothed now pinch like shoes a size too small. It's tempting to label this collapse as failure or punishment, but the field is not sabotaging you. It is preparing you. A caterpillar doesn't sprout wings by adding parts. It dissolves into imaginal fluid and is reassembled by a new blueprint. Likewise, when your system selects a higher timeline, anything engineered for the old frequency loses structural integrity. The plan falls apart so the pattern can fall away. This phase carries very specific signatures. Time starts to behave oddly, not as a tidy conveyor belt but as an elastic medium. Hours vanish in flow when you're near what is true, and minutes drag like wet cloth when you are not. Your body becomes unusually honest. A quiet weight behind the sternum when something is off. A spontaneous deepening of breath when something is right. A soft hum of steadiness when you've touched coherence. You'll also notice glitches around you. Emails landing at uncanny moments. Strangers saying the exact sentence you needed. Technology behaving unpredictably when you're pushing against your own truth. None of this is random. The field is repatterning, testing which strands of your life harmonize with the selection you've made beneath words. To move through this phase with grace, reverse the habit of forcing outcomes and become exquisitely faithful to signals. Signals are subtle, repeatable, body-based. Noise is dramatic, mental, urgent. Signals say, this conversation leaves me small. Noise says, if I don't say yes right now, I'll lose everything. Signals quiet you. Noise tightens you. Build your new architecture by acting on signals while they are still small. Send the clarifying message before resentment metastasizes. Step outside for 3 breaths before you answer that call. Place your shoes by the door if your body lights up at the thought of an evening walk. Then let your feet decide. In quantum terms, you are stabilizing a frequency through micro-expressions of truth, So the macro expression, new work, new home, new tribe, has somewhere real to land. Identity is the real remodel here. The you who survived by overfunctioning will insist on one more heroic push. The you who earned love by shrinking will try to disappear. Thank them. They got you here. Then let them retire. A higher selection does not ask the old identity to perform better. It asks a truer identity to come forward. Language helps midwife that shift. Replace performative affirmations with orienting sentences that your body can believe. I am safe to be honest. I am allowed to want what I want. I will not abandon myself to be chosen. Speak them slowly and watch what your chest, jaw, and belly do. If your body softens, you have found a bridge sentence. Repeat it until the softening becomes your baseline. Expect 3 conversations with your life. 1 with your space, 1 with your time, 1 with your people. Your space conversation is practical. Clear 1 shelf, 1 drawer, 1 folder. Creation abhors clutter, not because clutter is morally wrong, but because it traps attention in the past. Your time conversation is gentle. Map your week around 2 anchors that make you coherent: movement, nature, prayer, stillness, and guard them as appointments with the field. Your people conversation is honest. Notice who you leave brighter and who you leave brittle. You don't have to stage dramatic exits. Simply match investment to resonance. When you stop overwatering what cannot grow, you release water to the roots that can. There will be days when nothing seems to move. Do not mistake quiet for absence. In the cocoon, apparent stillness is maximum activity. Use these pauses to practice the art that will define your new life, non-anxious presence. Put 1 hand on your sternum, 1 on your abdomen, and breathe until your exhale lengthens on its own. Feel your spine as a mast. Let the storm be weather, not identity. This is not self-soothing as avoidance. It is self-stabilizing as participation. The calmer your interior sea, the more accurately you can read the currents. And selection, remember, is made by the sea, not the waves. Finally, notice the kindness that begins to leak into your decisions. You will choose the email subject that dignifies both sides. You will take the meeting later so you can show up whole. You will say no without making anyone wrong. This is not you becoming soft. It is you becoming precise. Coherence is efficient. It wastes nothing, not time, not words, not energy. When precision and kindness travel together, you are no longer negotiating with life. You are conversing with it, and in that conversation, the next step has a way of appearing exactly when your foot is ready to land. Most people try to think their way into a new reality, as if the mind were a remote control for the universe. That's mental certainty, a polished narrative layered over an unchanged nervous system. Embodied certainty is different. It's the felt moment when the story in your head, the pulse in your chest, and the way you stand in a room all tell the same truth. In embodied certainty, there is no gap to close and no outcome to chase. The field registers you as the thing you once tried to attract. The fastest way to locate this state is to test for coherence rather than convince yourself with arguments. Take a sentence that represents your next timeline. I create from calm, not from crisis, or my work is paid, proud, and precise, and speak it aloud slowly enough to hear the body answer back. Does your breath lengthen on the exhale? Do your shoulders drop a centimeter? Does your jaw release? Softening is a signature of truth. If you tense, you've found a fracture, not a failure. Adjust the sentence until the breath says yes. This is not affirmation theater. It's somatic calibration. From here, build a life that behaves like your sentence. Identity precedes strategy. If the chosen timeline is, I am the person opportunities pursue, stop auditioning for rooms that can't hear you. Curate 1 pristine signal a day that your future self would send. 1 email written with dignity. 1 boundary kept without apology. 1 hour dedicated to the craft that makes time disappear. Future timelines don't arrive because you beg louder. They arrive because you've made a habitat where they can live. When doubt spikes, as it will, remember that doubt is not a verdict. It is unintegrated velocity. Treat it as weather. Sit, place a palm on your sternum, and count 6 slow exhales. Ask 1 question only. What tiny action would make this a little more true in the next 10 minutes? Then do exactly that without drama. Embodiment is a million quiet pivots. The field amplifies consistency more than intensity. You'll notice 3 side effects as certainty takes root. First, you stop narrating your value and start transmitting it. People feel you before they understand you, and invitations appear that language could never have negotiated. Second, your tolerance for incoherence plummets. You won't be able to stay in rooms where you must contort to be tolerated. You'll choose rooms where you can relax and therefore create. Third, results arrive with a sense of obviousness that borders on boredom, not because they are dull, but because your system already became them before they arrived. A word about humility. Embodied certainty is not swagger. It is quiet alignment. There is no need to posture when your cells already agree. You won't overshare to be believed or overwork to be chosen. You will move like a lighthouse, anchored, bright, unconcerned with convincing ships that light exists. If you want a single practice that rewires the day, begin each morning with 1 minute of as-if breathing. Sit upright, eyes soft, and breathe as if the email has arrived, the solution has landed, the conversation went beautifully. Don't visualize pictures. Ventilate the physiology of that reality. Let the breath, not the brain, teach your body how it feels to live there. Then let your calendar carry that rhythm. Align 1 decision, 1 message, 1 meal, 1 step with that breath. Do this for 21 days and watch how the world edits itself around your new baseline. In the end, embodied certainty is not loud and it is not rare. It is the natural state that returns when you stop managing perception and start telling the truth with your posture, your pace, and your presence. When mind, body, and behavior converge, the field does not need convincing. It simply recognizes you and rearranges accordingly. Before a single image lands on the screen of your awareness, a quieter event has already occurred. A selection. Not a thought, not a visualization, not a burst of willpower, but a shift in the field that decides which framework of reality you will inhabit for the next moment. Think of it as choosing the operating system before opening any apps. When people talk about manifestation, they're often adjusting icons on a desktop while ignoring the system booting underneath. The observer effect is real, but it's secondary. The primary mechanism lives in the pre-observation gap, those fractions of a second, between one thought dissolving and the next one, forming where your state of being broadcasts a signature and reality reorders itself to match. In that gap, you do not beg the world to change. You quietly become the world in which that change is already true. You felt this without naming it. A conversation turns the instant you relax your shoulders. A problem unclenches the moment you stop arguing with it. The email arrives minutes after you stop chasing and start breathing like the person who would receive it as routine. Nothing out there moved first. Your frequency moved and the world followed. This is the pre-observation choice in action. Your nervous system, posture, breath, and baseline emotion aligning into a single coherent chord that tells the quantum field, run the version where this is normal. When the chord is clean, outcomes feel inevitable rather than dramatic. They click into place with the quiet certainty of a key turning in a well-cut lock. To work at this level, you must graduate from techniques that try to push reality and step into practices that change who is doing the observing. Begin by cultivating the stillness interval, those 6 slow exhales where you refuse to rush the next move. In that tiny sanctuary, you are not visualizing. You are listening. What does your body do when you speak the sentence of your chosen timeline? If your breath lengthens and your ribcage softens, you have coherence. If your jaw tightens or your chest holds, you've discovered friction, evidence, not failure. Adjust the sentence, the stance, the internal posture until the system says yes. This is not positive thinking. It is somatic truth testing. Once the yes is present, act immediately in a way the old version of you would never have chosen. Send the concise message instead of the apologetic essay. Decline the misaligned offer without explanation. Begin the meaningful page instead of planning the perfect project. Micro-actions are how the field knows you are serious. They stitch the state into the day. What changes next is your sense of authorship. You stop monitoring outcomes like a nervous guard and start tending your signal like a careful musician. You notice that when you slip into effortful convincing, over-explaining, overworking, over-promising, results wobble. Not because life is punishing you, but because your cord has gone out of tune. You return to the pre-observation gap, breathe the body back into honesty, and choose again. Over time, this becomes your reflex. Meetings bend toward clarity. Timing aligns without your management. People treat you as you treat yourself in the stillness. The myth that you must strain to deserve what already fits begins to evaporate. There is a humility and a fierceness to this work. Humility, because you stop demanding that the universe salute your plans and instead become exquisitely faithful to the frequency that makes those plans redundant. Fierceness, because you stop compromising with incoherence. Rooms that require you to shrink cease to be options. Habits that numb your signal fall away without drama. You do less persuasion and more presence, less hustle and more honesty. And paradoxically, more happens, faster, cleaner, with fewer words and less wear on your heart. If you remember nothing else, remember this: selection happens before sight. The field is always querying. Which version of you is online right now? Answer with your breath, your stance, your next tiny move, and let observation be the afterglow rather than the goal. When you live from the pre-observation choice, reality stops feeling like a door you must knock on and starts behaving like a room that recognizes you the moment you cross the threshold. Most people keep asking reality to move first. They bargain with outcomes, bargain with time, bargain with their own nervous system. I'll believe when I see it. Alignment flips the arrow. It asks you to become the kind of presence for whom the outcome is not a miracle but a match. Attraction is petition. Alignment is permission. In attraction, the self remains separate from the thing it wants, tugging at it with mental rope. In alignment, the self dissolves the rope and becomes the tuning fork that makes the room hum. You aren't pulling a result to you. You are remembering the field in which the result is inevitable. The fulcrum of this shift is identity, not the biography you recite or the brand you promote, but the felt center from which you act when nobody is watching. Mental certainty can believe this can happen and still walk, email, spend and speak like someone for whom it probably won't. Embodied certainty does not argue. It breathes at a different depth. It answers differently on a Tuesday afternoon. It chooses differently when nobody would know if you compromised. The field does not read your wishes. It reads your ways. Every micro-choice is a frequency broadcast. The tone of your no, the punctuation in your message, whether you stop speaking when you've already said enough. In isolation, these acts seem trivial. In coherence, they become the rails along which reality arrives. A useful doorway is the question that ends performance. Who is the person for whom this outcome is unremarkable? Not dazzling, unremarkable. If the outcome were normal, how would you sit, schedule, price, tidy, and exit a conversation? Try it for 60 seconds. Let the body lead the thought. If you are the author who sells out venues, how do you open your laptop? If you are the founder who stewards resources well, what is your first sentence in a budget review? If you are the partner who loves with dignity, how do you end the call when you feel yourself slipping into old patterns? Alignment is ordinary greatness. It is the quiet click when posture, breath, and behavior agree. Once the click arrives, take a small action the old identity delayed. Send the honest note. Decline the glittering misfit. Pay the invoice early. The universe is not testing your eloquence. It is calibrating to your consistency. Notice what alignment immediately ends. The addiction to drama. Attraction tends to chase peak moments that prove the work is working. Alignment curates baseline. You stop chasing exceptions and start elevating your average day. You rinse the mundane until it shines. How you wake, the quality of your first glass of water, the way you put your phone down before you choose a thought. This is not aesthetic fussiness. It is physics. Rhythm stabilizes reality. When your baseline is clear, opportunities stop spiking and start pulsing. The people around you will call it luck. You will recognize it as a regulated nervous system expressing a regulated life. Here is what alignment feels like in the body. There is space behind the sternum, as though the chest has a skylight. The jaw loosens without you commanding it. The breath arrives in full arcs instead of being yanked in sections. Time stretches just enough for a single wise beat between stimulus and response. You start to prefer accurate slowness over impressive haste. Silence becomes a collaborator. And paradoxically, outcomes accelerate because nothing essential leaks. There will be tests at the edge of every expansion. Invitations that require you to contort. Emergencies that insist you abandon your state to fix them. Old timelines that knock politely with familiar language. It won't take long. Just this once. Be realistic. Alignment does not fight them. It witnesses the tug, takes one deeper breath than usual, and chooses the next honest move. A three-step reattunement works in minutes. Soften the body, lengthen the exhale, make the most coherent small decision available. You are not required to suture the whole future.
You are required to keep frequency while you choose. Consider Maya, who had been attracting clients with fierce vision boards and inconsistent boundaries.
In attraction mode, every inquiry triggered a performance, overlong proposals, underpriced offers, and a rush of persuasive adjectives meant to manufacture safety. In alignment, she changed three ordinary things. She opened her calendar only after her morning walk, so her first meeting happened from breath, not from scramble. She sent proposals with one page and one price, allowing silence to carry dignity. She ended calls at the scheduled minute, even when the conversation felt intoxicating. In 6 weeks, nothing dramatic happened and everything changed. The people who needed hand-holding drifted away. The clients who respected her clarity multiplied. Revenue rose, stress fell, and for the first time in years, she had Tuesdays with no calls at all. That was the luck everyone noticed. The truth was simpler. Alignment made leakage impossible. Alignment also cleans your language. The field hears what you speak about yourself when you are not trying to be inspiring. "I'm terrible with money" is not a confession. It is a commission. "I don't have time" is not an observation. It is a spell. Swap them for sentences that are true and expansive. "I am learning to keep promises to my future self. This is not a priority this month. I move money with reverence." You are not faking it. You are refusing to fund an identity you outgrew. The point is not to decorate speech with positivity. The point is to remove static so the signal carries. What about desire? In attraction mode, desire is often a plea. Give me what proves I'm safe. In alignment, desire becomes design. Let me arrange a life that tells the truth. You do not chase a number. You sculpt a day. You do not audition for love. You become a place where love can land uninjured. You do not stalk validation. You build environments that mirror your values back to you. Your desk, your phone's home screen, the 5 people who hear your first ideas in their unpolished form. You are not trying to earn an aligned life. You are taking custody of the inches. The miles take care of themselves. When alignment wobbles, and it will, you are not back at zero. Think of a musician whose ear has matured. One sour note and the whole body flinches in recognition. That flinch is a gift. It means the system knows home key. When you overshare, undercharge, overwork, or say yes with a tiny internal no, the signal that follows, tired eyes, a gravelly voice, a thread of resentment, arrives faster and louder. Do not shame it, thank it. You are being escorted back to the note. If you crave something actionable, make it this simple. For 7 days, practice a 60-second state swap at the threshold moments of your day. Before you open your inbox, before you step into the meeting, before you answer a message that stings, before you transfer money, before you begin or end a conversation that matters. In those 60 seconds, breathe as the unremarkable version of you who already lives your outcome. Touch your shoulders and let them drop. Place one hand on the lower ribs and feel the breath expand sideways. Then do one ordinary thing the new identity would do without ceremony. End the call on time. Ask the price you wrote down last night when you were clear. Say, "That won't work for me," and stop talking. If you ritualize only this, your life will begin to express a new grammar. Finally, recognize the generosity of alignment. It is not a self-obsessed optimization project. It is a public service. People experience relief in your presence because you no longer require them to play roles in your private theater. You do not dangle and chase, inflate and deflate, hide and then demand to be found. You become legible. Your no keeps them honest. Your yes lands them safely. Your steadiness becomes contagious. In a world addicted to attraction's fireworks, Alignment's quiet glow recalibrates rooms. You do not need to wait for proof to begin. Begin and proof will become bored from how often it appears. Walk like someone whose outcomes are unremarkable. Speak like someone whose time is already valuable. Spend like someone who trusts their future self to thank them. Stop when you're done. Rest when you're tired. Decline what dilutes you. Praise what you want to keep. This is not magical thinking. It is meticulous being. Alignment is not the art of getting what you want. It is the practice of refusing to be what you are not, until only the truth remains, and reality, relieved, rushes to meet it. In the end, the shift you seek isn't something you force into place with effort or clever technique. It happens when you stop negotiating with your limits and start standing inside your truth. When your mind stops trying to manage outcomes and your whole system, thought, feeling, breath, and action settles into coherence, reality doesn't resist you. It organizes around you. If you feel even the slightest ease in your chest right now, a steadier breath, a cleaner sense of focus, keep it. That is your inner tuning fork striking the note your life has been waiting to echo. You don't need more tricks. You need permission, your own, to be undivided. Treat every small choice as frequency work. The word you choose, the boundary you hold, the attention you give, the silence you keep. This is the invisible labor that makes visible results inevitable. Life doesn't pay out for frantic effort. It mirrors state. When you choose coherence over noise, the ordinary becomes precise. People arrive on time, doors open without pushing, the day gets less abrasive. It isn't luck. It's alignment. If a piece of your story finally clicked today, honor it with simple, repeatable action. Drink water with presence. Walk for 10 minutes without your phone and let your breath lead. At night, return your body to gravity and speak this to yourself. I am the field that creates my experience. In the morning, let the first inhale carry the same sentence. That is how insight becomes identity, and identity becomes destiny. And now, a direct ask that fully matches the energy of everything we explored. Subscribe to the channel. Not as a courtesy, as a commitment. These aren't passive videos. They are transmissions designed to stabilize your state in the middle of real life. Subscribing keeps this frequency in your field so the next key reaches you the moment you're ready to integrate it. If this message strengthened you, tap subscribe now and let the signal keep finding you when it matters most. Carry 3 brief reminders as you go. First, coherence is not perfection. It's the speed with which you return to your center. Second, the future is not somewhere ahead of you. It is a response to your vibration now. Third, you are not alone. Every time you embody this truth, you clear a path for someone walking beside you, even if they never say a word. This is how a planet changes, presence after presence, choice after choice, without unnecessary noise. If doubt reappears, offer it presence. If the past knocks, offer it blessing. If the unknown calls, answer with the steadiness of someone who understands that uncertainty is only unshaped potential. Remember, alignment over attraction, identity over intention, embodiment over observation. You are not persuading reality from a distance. You are originating it from within. Let this be the line you do not cross back over. No more trying to be someone else before you're allowed to live. Everything you thought you had to earn by effort becomes natural when you stop resisting what you already are. Your timeline is not waiting for you to be worthy. It is waiting for you to be willing. Thank you for offering your attention so completely. May your words be clean, your boundaries kind, and your focus a refuge. When the mind demands proof, return to presence. When the world rushes, return to breath. When choices confuse you, return to coherence and choose again from there. If today resonated, subscribe now and keep this doorway open. I'm grateful you are here, truly. Until we meet in the next transmission, be well, stay honest with your frequency, and walk gently with your power. See you soon.